See, this is where I need a stand to hold my phone in my truck. So, when I actually get any followers, mouse the phone around, one of y'all can, hey, you know what? Still steadier than the Yeti videos. You can still probably get a better picture of Sasquatch in this, huh? Anyways, maybe one of y'all can buy me one of these. Send it. Or, hey, you know what? DC Universe. Yeah, since this one's about you guys, I'm calling you out. Why don't you guys send me one? Preferably one with the Dark Knight on it, because since I'm Batman. Speaking of, what if Batman Universe didn't actually go down the way that we're told it did, and in reality it is actually one big false flag operation? What do you mean? How could this possibly be? Well, let me tell you. So, we know the common story, the story that we've been told for all these years. Starts off Thomas and Martha Wayne and their son Bruce. They go to the show. They go to the opera, musical, whatever. On their way back, walking down the street, they decide to, for some reason, they decide to walk rather than, have their butler come pick them up at the door. And that's your first red flag. They decide to walk. And in the walking, they get jumped by a mugger. There's a struggle. In the struggle, Martha gets shot. Thomas gets shot. Bruce is left an orphan. He sees the man who kills his parents, and they let him live. Okay? Another weird. He grows up, educated, billionaire, goes off to find himself some monks in the top of a mountain, whatever. Learns Krav Maguchi from the great Pokemon trainer Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever he's called. And comes back to become this vigilante that rights all wrongs and makes sure the little guy gets justice. Great story, right? What if I told you that most, if not all of that, is fake? It's all one big lie. You've been lied to your entire life about what really happened that night and what's really going on in Gotham. You've been lied to. So let's start breaking this down. Like I said, the first big red flag is that they walked home. Alfred was supposedly their butler. Why didn't he drive them? Or at the very least, if they wanted to walk, because somebody said, well, they just wanted to walk, and they told them, don't worry about it. Why didn't he just maintain a half a pace, a couple paces behind them, just in case? Because, let's face it, when you're billionaires, you don't just walk anywhere by yourself. There is always a security detail, at the very least one, most likely more, who are watching you. They had no security detail. Alfred was nowhere to be found. They walked home. Why? Because for some reason, Alfred was not there to pick them up. Their bodyguards, their guard detail, because again, you're billionaires, you have a guard detail, especially when you run a massive corporation like that, and guess what? It's not your choice. You don't get a say in that. You are company property. As the CEOs of a company, you are company property. You don't get a choice. Head of the board, all that. Anyways, first major red flag. Second major red flag that just doesn't add up. If it was truly a mugging, and why let the only witness live? You know, chances are exactly who it is. It could be some addict, has no clue, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't know who it is. Well, you still, he's a witness. You don't let the witness live, especially in a situation like you don't. That's just bad guy 101. No witnesses. So that doesn't make sense. So what? And then a little bit later on, IDing. You got that good of a look even later on in life? You can't give a good description? Come on. Come on. And I know they try and play it away. Oh, the mob, and they just threatened him, and blah, blah, blah. And you're a billionaire. You're one of those people who literally has their own army. You have a security detail whose skill and numbers rivals most small countries' militaries. Like, if you want to, that mob boss is gone. You're connected. You know more people that can do more secret dark things and take somebody out without anybody ever knowing than anyone else on the planet. You can get rid of them faster than one of the major players. Three-letter agencies. You know, you can get rid of them a lot faster than them. So, and I'm sure there's probably other holes that I haven't thought of, but those three, those really stand out as don't make sense until you look at things in a different light. Step one, Alfred deliberately left them. The security detail deliberately stepped aside. Or the security detail was part of it. And the third one, him forgetting what they looked like. You say, well, there's no way. How do you explain that one? Make that one make sense. Well, easy. Very easy. It's very easy to forget what someone looks like if you never knew what they looked like to begin with. It's very easy to not be a good witness if you were never there. Or let me put this in a less cryptic, easier way to understand what I'm saying here. Break it down real simple. Barney style. For if you know, you know. And when you look at the name, you know. Let me break this down Barney style. It's very easy to not be able to identify the killer if you are not Bruce Wayne. If you are just an imposter who's been told to play their part, they're just in a mental block shock, they don't know what he looks like, and that's what they're going to stick with for the rest of that. That's the cover story. Okay, that begs the question, why did Alfred do it? I'll let you stew on that one, because one of the questions you're having now is, okay, well, then explain the whole him being a vigilante and fighting criminals and the criminal underworld and all of that, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll explain that. What happened to Bruce Wayne? I'll explain that. It all started a little bit before, a year or two, a couple of years before Bruce Wayne was born. Alfred had a daughter. Had. She kind of still does. Alfred's daughter came to visit him. Through a series of unfortunate events, as you may be able to piece together as to what happened. Or you know what? No, we're going to call it Alfred's sister. Fits the timeline a little better. Alfred's sister. She comes to visit him, looking to make a go of it, needing some help and a place to start off here in America. Alfred gets her a job, and while she's working there, she catches the fancy of Thomas Wayne. He likes her. She don't want nothing to do with him. She don't like it. She finds him creepy and disgusting. He's kind of a perverted, a little bit off playboy. He's got more money than he knows what to do with it, and he thinks everybody needs to just do what he says, including her. She refuses. One thing leads to another. She gets pregnant. She has a son. She still don't want anything to do with Bruce. She keeps it quiet as to what happened. And then, or with Bruce, she doesn't want anything to do with Thomas. She keeps it quiet about what happened, doesn't even tell Alfred initially. She just pulls back. Thomas moves on, meets Martha. Does the same thing to her, except for she caves and she marries him. It was a forced wedding, but she's thinking of this child that's growing in her, so she goes with it. Alfred's picking up something's going on. And he finds out from his sister that she's pregnant. Kind of obvious. She starts to show. He finds out who the father is and what happened. But he also finds out that now Martha's pregnant. And he's in a dilemma. So, having known Thomas for years, he talks to Thomas and explains to him the finer points of how his nephew is going to actually be taken on as the firstborn to inherit the kingdom of the Waynes. Thomas won't have anything to do with it. Sends her off packing. Tries to hide her away. Keep her from talking. All of that. Alfred snaps. He doesn't show it outwardly. He's too reserved and planning for that. So he spends the next 8-10 years planning. As little Bruce grows, Alfred plans. He finds his sister. He finds her child. He gets them somewhere protected. And once he gets her somewhere protected, at this point, Alfred has systematically replaced all of the close circle bodyguards with men he knew from the days of the SAS. And maybe you can go back to he didn't confront Thomas, but Thomas had her sent away. Yeah, those details can be ironed out later. And he orchestrates all the guards to be gone that night. He conveniently doesn't show up to pick them up in front of the theater. And the mugger who meets them in the alley is Alfred himself. He shoots Thomas. He shoots Martha. He makes it look like a mugging gone wrong. And Bruce is abducted. in the struggle, Bruce sustains a significant head injury. Traumatic brain injury and damage to areas of his brain that control mood, control the ability the areas of your brain that are in charge of the ability to control your sense of humor. Things that are supposed to make you sad or angry, they make him laugh. The more he laughs, the angrier or filled with rage he gets. Alfred can't do anything with that now. So he has to put him somewhere. So, under a John Doe name, because Bruce does not remember who he is. His brain is damaged. He'll never remember. He doesn't remember who he is initially. But under a John Doe name, and due to some disfigurement, facial disfigurement that he sustained in the assault, nobody knows the wiser, and Bruce, at 10 years old, 10 years old, is admitted under a false John Doe alias to Arkham Asylum. At that same moment, Alfred's nephew climbs out of the car, roughs himself up some, and begins the longest false flag operation that we've ever seen. He begins to spend the rest of his life pretending to be Bruce Wayne. Now, as time goes on, the real Wayne, the John Doe, sees things because he can see all of the news stories, and he sees everything about the murders and how all of that went down and how this imposter is elevated. So he starts to go a little more nuts. Except for rather than going into rage, he starts bursting into hysterical laughter. Nobody's going to believe who he is now. He's nuts. He's in the psych ward. Of course he's going to be thinking, I'm Bruce Wayne. And he starts cackling. Over the next 10, 15, 20 years, 10, 15 years, the real Bruce slowly loses his mind. He knows that this is an imposter, but he slowly forgets who he really is. He just left with this utter hatred for the imposter, for the fake Wayne. Over those years, he spends his time manipulating other patients as he comes in contact with them, twisting them against Bruce Wayne. And as he starts hearing about this vigilante who's raining down on crime in Gotham and sees all of what he could do with the money he has, clearly this man is wealthy. There's only one that it could be, and he figures it out, which, let's face it, anybody could figure it out. It's Bruce. Fake Wayne. At which point, he starts to orchestrate certain individuals inside and outside of Arkham Asylum and Gotham Penitentiary. People that he has made contacts with, whether through former patients, current patients, staff in the asylum. Contacting people to slowly bring more and more crime to Gotham, to really drive up the popularity of the Bat, with the eventuality planned that one day, he himself is going to get out of Arkham Asylum, he will feign sanity, he will get out, and then he will start his reign of terror against the Bat, against Gotham, and ultimately against Alfred himself. Now, does it make sense why the Joker, in a sarcastic, cackling tone, calls him Batsy? Does it kind of make a little bit more sense why he's so nuts? Why he's so dead set against taking out Batman, taking out Batsy, taking out Bruce Wayne, taking him down and tearing apart Gotham, tearing apart Alfred, and everything that he has perceived has been the cause of him losing everything, of where he is? Does it now make better sense why Ra's al Ghul decided to, after training Bruce, to all of a sudden go on this purge of society? Because Ra's al Ghul figured it out. He figured it out after he was told a story from a young man who spent half of his life in Arkham Asylum. A young man who could prove he was who he says he was. Who could prove he is the real Bruce Wayne. See, this whole time, you've thought it's gone one way. Completely different. Not even close. And you might be asking, okay, well, where did all these other people of that age range come from in Arkham Asylum? See, that's the question in it. All these kids, the unfortunate ones, society's rejects. So that's theory number one. We'll give you a second one here before long.